Hey guys, so you just saw me hit a pretty big conventional deadlift PR. I actually tweaked my back a little bit the day before, lower back, after doing a leg press, surprisingly, and I was cripplingly sore in my legs, just because I'm doing more volume than I really ever have on all my leg movements because I'm the strongest I've ever been. But you know, I kind of knew that I was just going to come in, warm up. Take what was there. As I started warming up, my back felt better and better. Didn't really feel any pain. I did notice though that 485 moves significantly slower off the floor than it normally does. So I was planning on hopefully hitting a 551 for 8s deadlift, but I just took what was there. So I got that PR at about RPE 8s. Then back down to one more backup set of 8s. With 501 pounds, that was more around RPE 6, 7. It was really good. And then I'm doing some straight leg deadlifts. On these, I'm really focusing on extension in my spine, pointing my butt back up to the wall behind me, keeping my chest up, and trying to maintain a vertical shin angle. This is really something that I need to work on because I bias towards flexion in my deadlift, and straight leg deadlifts really help me work on that end range strength and really fight for extension off of the floor. And that's the main reason why I would program in a straight leg deadlift as opposed to an RDL. In RDL, typically you're going to be a little bit more protracted in your shoulder blades. As your straight leg deadlift, you're probably going to be a little bit more retracted, a little bit more of an extension focus as well, instead of a flexion focus. But I'm also just doing these because of hypertrophy stimulus. A little bit more low fatigue as opposed to doing 4 sets of 8 with conventional deadlift. So pretty good stimulus there for my hamstrings, back, and glutes. And this went really well. Then I moved on to some arm accessories. So I'm doing a lot of arm work right now, just because I have never pushed arm volume that much, if I'm being completely honest. I've usually relied on my bench pressing and my row and my pulling movements to mostly grow my arms. But seeing that I am past the beginner stage of training, I do need to devote a little bit more direct work to my arms. So I'm doing higher reps just to start the things out. I'm already noticing a difference in how they look. My strength on these has gone a lot up. And so in terms of, when do you need to add in more direct arm work, typically I would say you should only add it in once you really have a good reason to. So a good example of this is that, I don't really get very sore ever from training my biceps or my triceps from my previous volume. So I knew that it was probably safe to add on a little bit extra work. So add on about 3 weekly sets, which is actually a pretty big volume increase, doing about 12 sets of biceps and triceps per week, and definitely noticing a difference in at least how they look. So that's been really nice. But just a little bit of an update on where my body weight is at. So I'm consistently waking up around 189 pounds. That's been my weekly average. I saw 190 on the scale a couple times, but that was kind of just fake news because I was a little bit constipated and that really full of shit. So but overall, the trend is upward. I am in a very slight surplus right now, but it is really making all of the difference with how much stronger I do feel. And while I could just rush this process, I want to take it slowly just because of a few reasons. Like, one, I don't want to add on excess fats. 2, I don't feel good when I add weight really fast. I mean, you're bulking for powerlifting. You really want to maintain your leverages. as best as you possibly can. So, and especially on deadlift, for me, like I don't want to sacrifice my world-class deadlift for an extra few pounds on my bench press. So I'm just really focusing on solely gaining weights, kind of doing a little bit more of an auto-regulated approach to this. So essentially, giving myself a calorie range, going off of hunger signaling, and what the scale weight is doing, and then also how I'm recovering for my training. So that has been actually working out really well for me. And scale weight is slowly going up. I started out around like 187 about a month ago, and 2 months in, I'm right on track. Seeing 189, and that's been really exciting. Honestly, I don't know if there's really any fat gain at all. I don't really think I'm going to gain much body fat at all going into this, this next meet that I have, which I'll talk about later. But I really like these kneeling single arm lat pull downs, specifically because of my history with having a lat tear in my lower left lats from a couple of years ago on a deadlift. It does flare up every now and again when I am deadlifting, and actually could be a pretty big pain in the butt when I'm trying to extend my hip and like retract my shoulders and just completely lock out and pull through. So I noticed that when I do these for a little bit higher reps, my left lat feels a lot happier. I just stay healthier. That's a big part of accessory work. Building more muscle, more tissue resiliency, is going to just be really healthy for your body. But going over what my next meet is, I am signed up to compete in a professional meet sanctioned by the WRPF in October, on October 15th, with Jill Sullivan, Jake Benson, Jad Alame, Shane Haller. Like lots of these lifters are a lot better than me. Like these guys have like 500, upper 500 dots scores. Meanwhile, I'm like sitting here with like my 466 dots, and I'm kind of done with competing at more of these local meets. I will still do them, but I'm probably going to be traveling more for meets. Like I'm probably going to also be doing the hybrid showdown next year early. But this is just something that kind of just reminds me to stay on my shit with eating, because I just have a really hard time with eating. I tend to have issues with GI comfort, and so that's something that does hold me back. And also, I just don't have a very big appetite relative to my energy expenditure. Like my body naturally wants to be 170 pounds. So even me just maintaining, 189-ish, like it still does take work. But like I said, kind of just doing what I have to do. Really focusing on my performance right now. I've never been this big and this lean. And so that's really exciting. I've never felt this strong. I feel good. My sleep is getting better. So that's all really positive stuff that I am focusing on, and just kind of able to very consistently progress and recover. Obviously, fatigue does accumulate. For example, in this session, I mean, I felt pretty much like crap coming into it, just because that's kind of what happens when it gets to be around week 4 of a training block. For me, I usually have a deload once every 4 weeks, so looking forward to that. But something I wanted to say really fast about these. So I don't do a ton of directed deadlift volume, actually. I've seen in my experience that deadlift does not need a lot of direct volume. It also doesn't need a lot of intensity work. Usually I find about 1 or 2 harder sets of deadlift per week with some very low fatigue back down volume work. Like most of my back down sets are 6 RPE or less. And then focusing on having that squat volume and leg accessories carry your deadlift, as well as doing a ton of accessory work for your posterior chain, such as all the back movements I was talking about, these weighted back extensions, leg curls. That is what I have found teams to work the deadlift the best, and just focusing on technique on your actual compounds. Because and one of the reasons why I'm very much biased towards lower fatigue back down work on average on the deadlift as opposed to the squat and the bench press is because the deadlift just tends to be more sensitive to that fatigue, and in terms of technique and also performance than any other lift. So having more of that low fatigue back down work at the lower RPEs is basically still is like where you want to be. As long as the average load is still increasing, you're still going to get stronger. And I've actually found that my top sets on deadlift actually feel stronger and more predictable. I have less interference with my squat volume. So that's something I've found work very well for me. But yeah, that's the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions for me, please ask them down below. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.